good afternoon, and welcome to the Healing Space. Welcome back. My name is Abduraghman Adams. Some of you may know me as Abdu. It is fantastic to be with you. We're coming to you from our Athlone studio, and with us is none other than Mr. Tony van der Rheede. Now, for those of you who know, Tony van der Rheede is one of the producers and content creators of the Healing Space. That is exactly what you are watching right now, the Healing Space. Welcome, Mr. van der Rheede. Great to see you.
Thank you. Always good to be seen.
Lovely. Yeah. It means there's relevance. I would like to, or at least we are trying to create relevance that moves us towards social change, etc.
Nice.
That's exactly why we are having this conversation. Also, you know that I always call you a master social worker.
Why master?
Because you are a master.
Hey?
You are a master.
Sure.
You know, if there was let's think of my industry, drama, think of workshops, etc. A master classes. That's exactly you.
Okay.
You should be busy
firm
giving
distinction.
master classes
Wow.
to people. But
Nice.
it's not about me today. It's all about you. What I'm wanting to know from you is, say for us a bitchy, what's happening? What is on Tony's plate at the moment?
Firstly, thank you for the welcome. Thank you for inviting me back into this space. It is a healing space. The show's name is Healing Space, but the space is also healing towards me. So, there's been a few changes. Movement, positive movement in a positive direction. And that is generally just around implementation. Taking incremental steps, small steps towards getting somewhere. Oftentimes, I know for my personality, I want to arrive quick, fast. I'm going to move from here. But overlooking the small steps are important.
Yeah.
You don't jump from one space to another and then when I balang and then I'm like, down in the dumps and stuff. So, incremental steps. The last time I was here, I was just starting to work as a social worker. Now I'm looking to implement the working class, which is where my passion lies, blue collar workers, marginalized communities, people of color, those so forth. And why those people is because they don't generally have access to therapy. Again, we spoke about the last conversation we had was around the stigmas that is attached and all of that. So the people that need it the most are the people that use it the least.
Yes.
And that those resources are not made available to them. So yes, we are implementing, we are advocating at that level just to bring mental health and the relevance of mental health, the relevance of word that you used earlier. We bring it in again to these communities.
Yes.
Just to show them how relevant mental health and the need to maintain your mental health is for them and the access they have to the resources.
So despite you working at a non-profit organization,
yes, that's
which you will be telling us about shortly, you also have now started a company which is called, and I love this, Colorblind.
Colorblind.
I love it. Please tell us, what is Colorblind all about?
Colorblind is essentially just, as I explained to you earlier, the need to provide and make aware of mental health and resources towards assisting in maintaining a good mental health, but specifically geared towards the working class. Why? And overlooked, marginalized within the workspace. Medical aid that's non-existent, kost klomp geld, take time off to go and see a social worker, kan nie afvat van die weekie, of a psychologist, of weet jy wie is, wat is die nie, maar die ding ruk by die huis. There's family issues, finances is an issue, gang violence, allemaal die goed is wat is discussed voor die has relevance and impacts on the mental health, which impacts on your productivity at work and your ability to function in your workspace.
Totally.
So managing stress in the workplace. Yes. What is it that is available to you within the workspace? Not just the community space.
And there's a specific program though that aligns to that, is it not?
Yes.
The employment, is the employment
it's an employment assistance program,
Yes.
or employee wellness program, and it essentially is developed. It's a program. It should be a policy
Yes.
that looks at and only focuses on how do we assist the people who work for us to be in peak condition. How do we help them? Abdu has just lost a family member. There is grief and loss. It impacts on his work. What do we make available? How do we come alongside as a company to make sure that he has the necessary support, not just for him, but for his family as well? And that is not just to say that at the end of the day, because we need him to be a productive worker, but we also want to show that we care for our worker. Who wants to work for a company that doesn't care about you, that says to you, kykie, jy is net hier om te werk, en as jy nie kan werk, dan replace ons vir jou. Sort jou goedes uit by die huis. Ons is nie hier om te hoor van, wat gaat hier, don't come with excuses. Jy is net hier om 'n werk te doen. Verstaan? So, ons wil nie nog hoor van die goedes hier. I think the distinction there would between that and upper management, white collar, they take wellness days as a ding. Verstaan jy?
Jy het 'n bietjie golf as.
Verstaan nie, man, jy gaan 'n bietjie uit.
En 'n bietjie uit.
Nou, ek moet gaan de-stress.
Ja, nee.
Maar jy wat 'n masjienoperator is, jy wat 'n huisbedrywer is, waar val jy van? Sê wat 'n goed is? Wat 'n stress het jy? Jy's 'n huisbedrywer.
So would you say that every company or companies that they, I don't know, there should be a legal right that workers, employees, should get these services?
No,
especially in the corporate world, even if one just thinks of the corporate world not to.
Well, corporate,
because
corporate is
there seemingly the money is there,
The corporations want to know what is how does this affect bottom line?
That is
so when you pitch, they want to know how relevant is this to our bottom line. Ultimately, healthy employees, healthy workspace makes
absolutely.
for a good bottom line. Less days off, using less productivity time is not down. Also, you're there, but you're not working, you're not fully present.
Yeah, depression is, it's a real crisis. It has, I think, reached,
So
crisis
I think they call it presentivism of iets soos daai groot wat hulle gesê het, as die employees is by die werk, but sy werk eintlik jou mind is elsewhere. So it does affect your bottom line at the end of the day, not at the so much at the beginning, but ultimately those little changes does. Corporate, yes, they have things in place. I find that less factory, but more like Amazon or name dropping. Very big on the employee wellness programs. They take it very serious about developing people. So much so that if you don't show that there's movement, they put things in place. And if you don't want to grow, they work you out of that space. You cannot stay in the same space within the 3-month period. So you have to move through and work your way up.
Yes.
So
you work in the community. There is this idea, I think, sometimes that social workers or even psychologists are at the bottom of the chain. Do you want to speak to that?
Yeah, I notice when people speak, and this is mostly with people who are in the care industry, people who provide care. They speak of social workers belonging to a hierarchy. And the bottom of the hierarchy is the social worker, and then you get the psychologist, and then the psychiatrist. And it's almost like social workers are failed psychologists. It's like, no, but I chose to be a social worker. So it's like, okay, so what does social workers do that is different to psychologists or psychiatrists? So other than the normal, psychiatrists dispense medication, psychologists don't. Psychologists diagnose, and social workers don't. But we make inferences. So that when you come, I send you to the occupational therapist to be checked. You do a MOCA test, but I infer that there is a cognitive fallout, because while I'm speaking to you, then raak jy sommer weg.
Okay.
So I make these observations, and then I refer you. So by the time you get to the occupational therapist, they know what to test for. I don't perform the test, but I ask them. So I specialize in that, and that's my werk. But I can make inferences. So as ek werk, sê maar jy kom hier vir jou voete, but ek kan sien as iets verkeerd met jou oë, dan sê ek jou, I'm not going to treat.
Yeah.
Just because I'm
And in the total defense of social workers, I think they are the first line of defense. and having to implement in the end whatever other members of the multidisciplinary team, decides on. However, implementation is, for me, it's the most important.
So they refer to social workers as the brooms of society.
No, they are not the brooms of
Some
society. Really? I didn't know that.
That's out there. But the other thing is in terms
Hulle het nogal 'n fine chick. Actually, ek drink sommer water.
Sure. Sy maak my doors.
Yeah.
So the thing is this, in terms of implementation, so policy is a dead document. There's policy that is written. We work within the constitution, so there's legislation. And what we do is we give life to a dead policy. So if policy says, and we've had this conversation, that every child must have a roof over their head, social workers ensure that every child has a roof over their head. So if we go into the community, like you say, the first line of defense, and we find that there are children on the street, we investigate that this child is not getting sufficient care, there is no supervision, this child doesn't have access, there's no parental roles because the parents are on drugs or whatever reason, then we ensure that that gets done. So I don't know when the last time was that you found a psychologist in your community going about doing that. So we implement policy one, and we also advocate for policy change. So even at a policy level, but it's called a bottom-up approach. So yeah, we are at the bottom, but that's where the information lies. We are on grassroots level, ground level. So you getting your info, what is needed in the community, bottom-up approach. Here is the example. I go to this community called the Nova Park, and I test this theory of a top-down versus bottom-up. We come into the community. What is needed? What is the need of this community? All the papers say there's a drug and gangsterism problem, which should be the priority. So we're going to direct funds and resources towards that. Speak to the community, and the young girl there, all of 14 years old, in puberty, looking, says that the bigger problem is not guns and gangsterism, because that doesn't affect us so much. It is the fact that at 8 o'clock there is a curfew for young women, because you are fair game if you are found to be walking around after 8, and if you dress a certain way. There are certain rules that have been set by men in the community. So she said, rather advocate there, because the thing is this, these are my brothers, uncles, father, men know who are doing this thing, treating women this way, policing this sort of undisclosed norms that they've created that makes young girls or any women in the community fair game if they are found. So then therein lies the gender-based violence. So the point is bottom-up approach. That came straight from the young girl's mouth, and said, you know what, I don't have
misogyny there.
But you wouldn't know if you didn't speak to them, engaging with the community. So you just go and you go online and you say Nova Park community, and what cause it gangsterism and drugs. Okay, then we're gonna put resources there. So you come and you tell the community what they need, a community that you don't live in. Even if you're gonna get information from them, it is how you engage. As ek vir jou sien aankom in 'n kadoetjie suit en sy praat bra, jy gaan niks aan jou sien nie, want sy verstaan nie. So you know what I'm getting at?
Truly. Laat my so mouse. Want ze kry van hulle wat so uitsteek.
And then I ask you a question, but then I answer it myself. So what do you think this community needs? How many, is the problem of gangsterism really that rife here? You know, or is your brother and your father on drugs and I was like, hallo. Sy het my dan nou 'n vraag gevra, maar sy sit nie stil lank genoeg om te luister nie. Sy's nie hier met jou.
Tony, for our viewers, because of the work that you do in that community, Elsie's River?
Yeah.
Fantastic. I've been there. I should be going there again.
Sure.
And I have to say it into camera because that is a promise that I must keep. But just give me the lowdown. What's happening there? Just very briefly, just tell us what exactly that space is utilized for.
I think within the work that we are doing, we managed to create what is called an extreme oasis, and that is the organization I'm borrowing from what our CEO Magda Klein has set up, and how she's we call
formidable woman, by the way.
Yeah, so her organization Tahila is called a community collab, exactly to the degree of what we just said now.
Yes.
Went into the community, asked what the need is, took derelict buildings that were vandalized, turned it into a space that the community can utilize to meet that need as identified by them. So in terms of that space, yes, it is still creating a safe space where needs can be met, and the needs that are met through this organization is typically focused on two areas, which is health and wellness. Me, the wellness side, she, the health, being a nurse, coming from a nursing profession. So we have those ladies that go out, home-based carers, we have the shelter, and those are geared and focused to the poorest of the poor people that are coming off the streets, can't afford a. And that is my business model. It is to bring healthcare to the poorest of the poor, to make it available to everybody, not just those who can afford it, especially mental health.
On our visit there, I remember distinctly that is this an old school that you guys are inhabiting?
Yeah.
And there's is it the hospice section?
Yeah.
I saw young mothers, if I remember correctly. I saw many young kids. I also saw a sustainable program in place, and I'm not just talking about the vegetable garden, but I think there's a definite strategy that you guys are obviously aiming for, and that for me was fantastic.